So I just put in the chat window a picture of the view from here to there. Look in the chat window, you'll see it.
I'm gonna make a team.
All right. Great. It's okay.
So my guess is you're running this all on Teams Live now?
Sherman, you're muted.
All right, here we go. Guys, everybody, we're going to be starting here in just 8 minutes. Just a little bit after great afternoon today. And look forward to learning not to speak from everybody here. Feel free to ask questions, put things in the internet. Also, we do make this a networking type of call as well. We're not here to take anything from anyone. We're here to give. So go ahead and start placing your contact information in the chat window if you like. If you want people to call you, that's what I think. We always strive to, really, help everybody out here. I just have a really great afternoon, and love having you guys come back. Second, put the chat window on so I can see it. Yeah, all right. Perfect. All right, so it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to give it one more minute just for other people to join here. Just one more minute. And we're going to be streaming live on LinkedIn as well. We had over 300 people attend on that one, so we'll just start here live. And we'll get this going here. So we want to say, first and foremost, thank you everyone for joining us today. Today is part 2 of the New Commerce Experience. Our last New Commerce Experience, part 1, was a firebrand of the show. We had over 700 partners that attended in 2 different realms. And we had a guest speaker from Microsoft, Alex Perez, who's not with us today. I think there was another commitment. However, it was quite a firebrand of a show. So, we're following up today, and I just want to go ahead and kick this off here, and you can advance the slide there, Dylan. We're going to kick this off. Today's theme today is to really dive into, the voice of the Microsoft partner. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear you talk. We're diving into the New Commerce Experience. The dust has settled, right? The dust has settled a little bit. It's not over by any means, but, from the very first introduction of the New Commerce Experience, we've all had different experiences. It's very interesting, right? We all had different experiences. And I think what's really neat about, I think good, bad, and ugly sometimes, right? But I think what we're going to do today is really it does settle a little bit. Let's talk about what we have learned, what questions we still have unanswered, as well as what strategies may be applicable, right, to this actual, to the scenario, right? So let me go ahead and advance it further. Let's go ahead and get right into the agenda here. So I'll have, very first, we're going to do some introductions. So we made just recently a great new partnership with a great company. We'll talk about that. We're going to, and the Stratus Cloud Alliance. Then we're going to get into New Commerce Experience, what we've learned, Number two, what questions are we not haven't answered? And number three, what are the strategies? And lastly, we're going to open up with a Q&A. Now, first and foremost, what I just want to make sure that you feel free and comfortable to go ahead and ask questions in there. What we'll do, since I can't actually see the questions, my eyes are getting older, one of my team's going to raise their hand and then maybe say, okay, there's a question from the audience, and then we'll ask that there. So with that being said, let's go ahead and advance it to the next slide. There you go, perfect. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest speakers for the day today. We've got a really great group here, people that are in and out of the industry. We have a partner, we have a distributor, we have two folks from the distribution channel that are one on the partner side and one is actually working from the distribution side. So I think we're going to get all different angles. And then we also have Judy Nichols, who's going to ask a couple questions or bring some comments in from another partner that we know. So Michael, would you mind just introducing yourself and Dylan, go ahead and spotlight him.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Sherman. Always great to be part of this event. I'm Michael Goldstein. I'm president of LAN Infotech. We're a managed service provider in South Florida with a big vertical in the legal and not-for-profit industries, and we're a tier 1 Microsoft partner.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Tyler, why don't we go ahead and get over to you?
Sure. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Tyler Bowman. I am the Director of E-Commerce at Velocio. I handle both the direct and indirect side and CSP program since its inception. So I've been kind of seeing the evolution of this from the beginning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And then Jeff, DeMaria. Jeff, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little about your roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, thank you. Jeffrey DeMaria here. I work with Velocio and the Stratus Cloud Alliance. I support our indirect resellers and making sure that they understand how to capture the cloud opportunity that's in front of them. There's so much opportunity, so much change. There's just a great way for partners to build their business, and that's what I live for every day, is just helping them grow.
Fantastic. And you'll have some great experience, and that's what I love about bringing you on too is, when we were doing our initial call yesterday, kind of doing our prep call, some really great insights, kind of like you've been working with the partners, so that's really great. And then last but not least, Scott May. Scott, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, thanks, Sherman, and welcome everybody. Scott May, I'm the Director of Channel Development with Stratus Cloud Alliance, and work with partners on the indirect reseller side. Again, as Jeff said, helping them go through and grow across the entire Microsoft cloud platform, and we're a partner that basically specializes in Dynamics 365.
Fantastic. All right. Well, why don't we'll move it forward to our next section here. I want to just kind of introduce, really, we made this great partnership. Actually, we formed a formal partnership with Stratus Cloud Alliance and Scott and his team. And what we'd like to do is kind of just announce that today. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be working very closely with their partners. They're going to be working very closely with our partners. And we want to give them an opportunity, before we get into the questions, just talk a little bit about what they do. And there's a lot of value. And then also a little bit about our partnership, because if you are currently working with them, I think there's some great benefits that we're doing this dual partnership together. I just want to show it to you. We'll be brief on this one, okay? So this isn't a course, but we just want to talk about it. So Scott, would you mind just kind of giving us a brief introduction on Stratus Cloud Alliance for those who may not know your organization?
Yeah, and thanks everybody for this time. We appreciate being on as a sponsor here in the Voice of the Microsoft partner program. As Sherman said, we want to just take a few minutes, so we'll be brief here. We want to jump right into the meat of the discussion today with NCE. So just, who we are. Again, Stratus Cloud Alliance is a Microsoft certified indirect provider. We're a little different than other providers out there in that we only focus on the Microsoft Cloud platform, and we specialize specifically in Dynamics 365. So we've been in the business application space for 34 plus years now, working with hundreds and hundreds of partners. Initially, we started an indirect partner network with Microsoft called the Master VAR Partner Program, which was the on-premise solution. And we morphed that into becoming a indirect CSP provider 4 years ago, with Microsoft, and we're the only Dynamics partner that became an indirect provider. So we really work with partners across the spectrum. We work with Dynamics partners who are looking to get into other areas of the Microsoft Cloud platform. We work with MSPs and competitive ERP partners who are looking to get into Microsoft. So we definitely support the entire Microsoft Cloud solution from Azure, M365, Power Platform, but we do specialize in focus on business solutions. So we're the only distributor really that specializes in Dynamics 365, business applications, if you will, across the board with BC, F&O, CRM, Power Platform. We're really easy to do business with. We're not the largest indirect CSP provider out there, obviously. We've got, hundreds of partners that we work with. So we've got a very close-knit, hands-on kind of white glove experience that we provide to our indirect resellers, and we make it easy for you to go through and work with us. Not only obviously to transact licenses across all the Microsoft CSP SKUs, but we provide services from pre-sales, solution architects, marketing and lead generation support. We have support plans. You have a dedicated partner development manager that you work with. So we make it really easy to work with us. We do have a best-in-class e-commerce platform, which, that's what Tyler heads up. And we've been working with NCE for over the past year plus. I know Tyler's been involved with that, has a lot of experience that he's going to go through and be able to share with everyone today. And then we do a whole lot more than just allow you to transact. We've got our Stratos Success Partner Portal. We have all types of enablement, training, marketing assets that you can use through us. We do a lot of through partner turnkey marketing campaigns that can be, white labeled to help you with lead generation. And then obviously we can help you with professional services and sales support on those leads that you generate. So next slide. So this is really just kind of encapsulates everything that we do, right? 34 plus years of, business application experience. We provide services and support. We help partners accelerate their channel sales into other areas of the Microsoft Cloud platform that they don't have to go through and have, the expertise or resources for, because they can tap into it through us, right? So, we help partners grow faster with basically less risk, less financial investment, and help basically accelerate that, go-to-market timeframe, right? We also help partners if they have ISV solutions to get those solutions, published into AppSource, as we are a certified Microsoft ISV development center. And then, we also have what we call the 3 Easy Steps partner enablement workshops. We have a robust, basically partner services catalog that you can go through and tap into, all designed to really go through and be your one-stop shop, if you will, for all things Microsoft Cloud. So next slide. And you might as well just click it one more time. So, these are all the areas that we provide our partners, enablement. And, it's enablement from a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective, from a professional implementation services perspective, or ongoing support, if you will. So, we kind of encapsulate that for you as a partner to be able to go out to your clients with, to expand your cloud growth and to continue to grow your basically cloud recurring revenue, again, without having to go through and necessarily have all the resources and make that investment. And then we do help partners who want to go through and get into those other areas. If they're looking to get into Dynamics 365 and do that for themselves, we help partners in that area as well. So we really look at ourselves as more than just a distribution partner, but really a business partner to help support your growth. And that's why I think the partnership with the Crancer Group and what they're doing to help partners grow matches real well with what we're doing and with what we're trying to roll out in the partnership that we'll be announcing at the end of this call. Next slide. You can just click through there. Again, we really work with partners. I'm not going to read through all of this. And we work with partners with where they're at, right? We have some partners that come in that are just getting into CSP. And basically, we help them build that whole practice. We have some partners that might already be doing Dynamics or, Office or M365 or Azure. We work with those partners with where they're at to look at what they want to expand into. If they're an MSP and they want to expand into Dynamics 365, or if they're a Dynamics 365 partner already and they want to expand into Azure or M365. Or we work with a lot of what we would consider mature partners who are coming from being a direct CSP, but they're moving to the indirect model, right? And they can take advantage of, all of our augmented services to help them grow further and faster, as they need it. Next slide. This is just a real quick recap. We support the entire Microsoft Cloud platform, right? Again, we like to hold ourselves out as a one-stop shop for all things Microsoft Cloud, from Dynamics to Azure to M365. We've got a Power Platform team, which is extremely hot right now, right? And that's one of the programs that we're going to be working with Sherman and the Crancer group on, is a customer immersion experience, which we'll talk about. So the Power Platform, we've got a team of about 20 folks that are industry experts with that. We're a premier certified Power Platform partner, and we help partners with proof of concept funding and things of that nature. We have a wide array of industry ISV add-on solutions that basically partners can purchase through our e-commerce platform that help extend all of the Microsoft Cloud solutions. And then the specialty services, again, that's a big part of where we're different, right? It's not just licensing and product, it's the services that you can get from us for Dynamics 365 or Azure or M365, and what we can provide in professional services to help support a partner's growth. Next slide. I'm not going to go through this at all, but we have definitely different levels of margins with partners and partner levels, from authorized to growth to strategic. So we really work with partners to help them continue to develop their revenue, and as they grow that, we have margin tiers that are some of the highest basically in the industry. Next slide. So if you are interested, there's a number of ways. Obviously, you can hit our website at stratuscloud.com. You can also go out and just complete our online application to get going. And from there, we start with our onboarding kickoff call and get Jeff and his team involved. We run you through what it's now called our 3 Simple Steps program, to really help you identify opportunities, drive awareness of the Microsoft Cloud solutions, engage with clients and prospects. That's really where the rubber meets the road, to help you go through and get going. And then we help you go through and kind of expand, right? Target some of those first wins that we can help you out with, and then look at where are other areas that we can help you grow your Microsoft Cloud platform practice, if you will, using our resources, our free automation marketing platform, our through partner lead generation campaigns. So, we're really here to help you not just transact licenses, but, grow your business. Next slide. So, again, we certainly appreciate the time. We want to get right into things now. If you have any questions, there's all my contact information, and I'd love to speak with anybody that's interested further about how we can work with you and the Crancer Group in building your practice out. So with that, Sherman, hopefully I kept that short enough, and we'll turn it back over to you to jump into the meat of the day in regards to NCE. What's next?
Absolutely, and thank you so much. Really appreciate it here, Scott. And let me just tell you, we always think of innovative ways of partnering, right? And Microsoft is big on this partner to partner, partnering, with others to try to figure things out. And many of you know that what we do for partners, we do these called customer immersion experiences, where we drive the demand, we do the lab with the customer or with the partner, and one of them is the Power Platform. And so there's this offer that's actually out there right now, a Power Platform offer that's up to $20,000 proof of concept. But you actually have to be a BizApps partner, so that's the roadblock. Many of us can't use that, right? We don't have 20 people who have a dynamic certification and to get this stuff. And so what we did is we talked to Scott. We're like, hey, Scott, I got a question for you. Could we do a deal together? Could we do a deal together where the partners that we work with are actually the partners that we work with could use your organization to apply for this proof of concept funding for Power Platform? And after we kind of investigated it, went to Microsoft, and we figured out, yeah, actually we can. So now we can take partners that are not necessarily have the certifications. We can do these emerging experiences for them, and then we can help them. We create an offer. It's a Power Platform proof of concept offer for $20,000 off the cost of your professional services. And now we're getting, I mean, it's gangbusters. You'd be surprised that the clients, these end customers that come to this are like, wow, really? We could do that? And we're like, yeah, you can. Let's set up a discovery call. Super awesome, but just, innovative ways. That's the main thing is how can we help you find ways to utilize, funds to help you build your business? And that's where we're going. We'll talk about this a little bit later down the road. But anyways, let's get into the meat of this. Let's talk about this first and foremost. So Michael, I'm going to go into right in the beginning. I think it's what we learned. So Michael, okay, first question for you, brother. What are the top 3 things that you learned when speaking to your clients about new commerce experience over the past 3 months?
Well, one of the things that I already knew, but I learned even more, is customers are very resistant to change. So as much as they were happy to hear from me, it's like, what? Another change? But I will say that, we jumped on the NCE announcements very early in the process, and we really did communicate this very early to our customers. So, all joking aside, listen, they appreciated the communication. They really, wanted to understand, what this change was and why. And it really led to a huge amount of upsell opportunities for us, which was surprising to me. So that those upsell opportunities were, many of those people that were sitting on potentially, E1 licenses just because they were, we moved them to business premium. We had guys that were sitting in other pieces that are out there, and we really got a chance to not only discuss licensing, but really focus this on upsell of security services and other pieces.
That's fantastic. That is interesting. Yeah, I mean, we found it isn't all negative by any means. We've gotten a lot more business. We've gotten new conversations, which is pretty cool. I mean, there are some challenges, right? But a lot of real positive things have come out of here. Tyler, if I can go to you, I mean, you're from the perspective of Velocio, right? Of Velocio. Can you give us maybe what are your thoughts on what you learned when talking, or kind of, you're the client really. So what do you feel like you learned?
So, I mean, honestly, we've learned the fact that, hey, customers are a lot more educated these days, right? They're listening to Microsoft. If you're coming late to the game, you're going to be, shit out of luck. You're going to lose customers. It's a different day of having to be honest and having those hard conversations and not being scared to say no.
Yeah,
it's not possible.
That's not what it should be. But why do
And Jeff, how about you? From the partner's perspective, you've been dealing with a lot of partners that are probably coming to you asking a lot of questions about this. What do you feel that you've learned, or maybe top 3 things that you felt were worth discussing here or sharing with the group?
That's what I'm doing.
There's been a lot of learning going on, and I think what we've really found is there's some opportunity that's out there, right?
LinkedIn.
I mean, but we always have to try to spin things into a positive, to remain positive.
Yeah.
And what we've identified is just a few opportunities for partners to really take advantage of some of these NCE possibilities. They may have their book of business working on rep renewals from the on-premise Dynamics ERP space, and they've been trying to take advantage of some other promotions that are out there.
And it has to be perfect.
Maybe they've already migrated to Business Central, and now that they're on the platform,
because it's in a presentation.
They have a chance. They have a chance to save some money. By the end of this month, if they process their orders, their annual orders, they're going to save 5% on their licensing. That's not bad news, And just like Michael was talking, that gives you an opportunity to talk about additional services, additional ways to help them be more successful as a client. Which is it's really great, because when you go in and leveraging what Scott mentioned with different service offerings that are available to partners like you, they can begin to start investigating, owning that relationship, owning the Microsoft CSP relationship with those different offers that are out there. So I like to always try to spin it to, there's a lot of positive here. It's helping drive client conversations, and we tell our partners every day, you have to be driving that cloud conversation because you have other partners in there that
LinkedIn
can potentially box you out, right? So
it's live right now.
it's an opportunity to talk to clients, and that's really not a bad thing.
And then that's
I know we're getting a lot of the flack with delivering the message, but like partners are not in control there. But we want to make sure that we're providing the right expectations for the clients and their partners and how it impacts their business.
Well, that's good. Let me extrapolate a little bit, and I'm going to be bringing Judy Nichols on in a minute. So if Dylan can make sure that she's elevated to be able to present and talk, I appreciate it. But more importantly, what Jeff, what do you think? Do you think that and look, and today we have some challenging questions. So first of all, this is not just a hey, let's make everyone super positive here. We're here. We have some challenges here. Okay, so let's just I want to make sure everyone knows that I'm not just pro. Like we have to be super positive about everything. But has the partner fervor changed? Like the perception? Have you felt that change in the past 2 months? Really? Has it been from? When we did this back in November? Holy Moses, man! We had a lot of people angry. What do you think? Have you felt the change, Jeff? And I'll go to Michael from his partner perspective. That he's talking about the partners. So, Jeff, what do you think?
Partners are having to adjust and adapt, right? The different options that are out there, how they're going to finance these deals, how there's some commitments tied with NCE. You have to pay out through the life of the contract. So it is changing the way that some partners are adapting to their clients. We're running into problems, right? Microsoft makes it crazy easy to buy direct, and they're sitting there. The partners providing the value, and what we're really harping on is the value that they're delivering to their clients, right? So how do you package your solutions in a way that they can pay for these solutions potentially up front, right? So the biggest thing that I'm experiencing with partners is just potentially how to finance some of those deals and providing them paths to get that financing to get those deals done. I think that's the biggest concern that I'm getting with partners, because with MCE, it does expose them to risk. You're on the hook for all those licenses, and you can't downsize it. There's no credit for your downsizes. So that's just thinking about their profitability going forward. That's important. And then they're looking at all these different things, and I think the certification levels are starting to become more important for partners because of the back-end incentives that are available with many of these SKUs.
Yeah. And Michael, what do you think? I mean, you're part of a lot of partner groups. You hear a lot of background chatter. I mean, I know this is a little bit off our script, but I'm just curious, from your point of view, Michael, what do you think?
So I always say, if you just heard about the 3 letters NCE in January, February, and I ran into a lot of partners that did, shame on you. Because if we're doing business, if I've always said that if you're doing business with a Microsoft, and it could be a Google, it could be an HP, you got to drive deeper, and you have to understand. And, you can only complain so much. I thought people thought that Microsoft would really go back on their word. I'll tell you that I was away, and on February 28th up to 11:59, Central Time, I was still working, getting all of our, NCE orders in, only to fall asleep and find out, 2 hours later that Microsoft then extended a bunch of those pieces on the last minute, only for their own fault, because their infrastructure couldn't handle the backload of all those orders. So I always say that you got to drive deep to go out there. You got to understand your partner. And if you're just in the licensing business, this was a lose-lose for you, only to get worse this next year. So there were a lot of people that jumped on board and, jumped off board and, went to Disney to go handle it. But, again, our complaining can only go so much. The machine, and it's not the first time in at least my 30-year IT or MSP type career that something we thought would be detrimental, the complainers complained till the last minute. The innovators went through and found a window of opportunity. And that 5% that Jeff was mentioning about, if you guys on the line don't understand what that 5% is, you still got another week. You still got another week. It looks like we got a lot of licensing guys on the thing, and I'm looking at the chat on the questioning. If you're first finding out the 5%, there's something that you're not paying attention to, or someone has to get fired.
We also had this thing. Remember when CSP came out and everyone's like, I got to do my own billing? Remember how crazy that was?
Yep.
Holy Moses, that was like everyone, like, oh, the cost of building and this and that and the other. And okay, we just had to do it.
There's requirements that we all have to follow through on that end. And listen, I think I'm a small fish in a big sea compared to a lot of people that are out there. But we maintained a tier 1 just because we had the infrastructure to be in control of it. Maybe we're a little different than some other partners. But you know what? I had a client yesterday that came back. There are about 110 seats. Little, manufacturing company. They ignored all my emails. They went through. I converted them to NC, on February 27th. Now they had licenses that they wanted to take back. I explained to them, showed them the 7 emails, and I'm not kidding. Maybe 7 was a minimum that are out there. She's like, you know what? I know what you mean, Mike. We're going to grow anyway. They're in our pile. So I think people are tolerant, and we communicated. And not only we communicated, for some clients, we beat them over the head. And the clients that didn't respond, we converted into NCE. For those clients that were not regular clients, give them the price increase. I put a new SKU in there, and that was it. That got their attention. So again, you got to understand your client base. You got to feel comfortable. You got to surround yourself, like we're all on this call today, with great partners, great technology, as well as information. So that's my standing on the soapbox.
That's great. Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. We did have a hand raise. I think Dylan did we have a question from the group or?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions in the chat. I'm not sure if Scott or anyone in the call would like to answer it. Jim was asking what incentives are there if you're gold. I not heard about this before, and then he had a follow-up asking what extra discounts do I get from Stratos on licensing? And then Chris just asked a question too. So we got a lot of questions coming in, so I just want to make you guys aware of all that.
Well,
So
on the Stratos side, we provide discounts, on the licenses, of course, based upon the volume of revenue that you're doing with us. The incentives that you are eligible through for Microsoft, right, go directly to you. They're not running through us. You're still eligible for those as a gold partner. And, there's different incentive programs, obviously, that are, out there and eligible. So, you would get the discount from us on the licenses, depending upon the margin tier that you're with us, from authorized all the way up to strategic. And then you'd be able to benefit from getting the back end incentive from Microsoft as well. And we work with our partners to help, understand what incentives are out there, what ones they should be taking care of or taking advantage of. Jeff DiMaria, he's relentless with that, working with our partners to make sure, that they're aware and, promoting that, partners should be going through and getting these and taking advantage of getting, certifications in place so that they can take advantage and make additional margin on the back end, which can be significant. I think upwards of 15-20%. So you just have to know the programs, and that's what we help partners with.
Let me bring in Judy Nichols. Judy, is Judy on right now? Judy, can we bring her on here?
I am.
Hey, Judy, you want to just quickly introducing yourself and your company real quick?
Sure. So I'm the Director of Data Analytics and Collaboration at Dean Dorton.
Okay, perfect. So Judy actually just sent me a question that I just was like, holy, it's more of a statement and a question at the same time. And we're actually, I want to bring her in here. I wanted her to describe this, and I wanted to see if anybody else is seeing this out in the market, because this needs to actually get to Microsoft. Judy, do you want to go ahead and just explain what happened and what you've seen and like Yeah.
It was like energy.
So
drinks.
one of the situations that we've run into, we've tried to be, as you guys have described, very proactive, reaching out to all of our customers, making sure they're aware of what's going on. And we've had a few customers that have said, we want to move all of our licensing over to you because you're the only one that's let us know what's going on. And one customer that we started working with gave them a quote to look at all their licenses. This was a huge license change for them. They then found out that their current partner that they were getting licenses through had already made their change and signed them up for NCE without ever telling them anything about it. And so they were committed for the next year and no communication had ever been received. And which to me is a big violation of our Microsoft integrity principles that we're supposed to be following, right? So they're stuck at the moment unless they really want to follow through on a legal standpoint or really fight it. But I'm just curious if you guys have seen that, what you've run across.
Yeah, and for the partners here that are on the call, please go into the chat windows and let us know if you have, and we'll actually bring you on. We'll elevate you up. I'd love to hear any stories there. But Jeff, you've been talking to partners. Have you heard anything that's similar to that type of situation?
I like working with them too.
Oh, you're on mute.
I didn't realize you could process an order without customer consent. There's an order process. Wow. I'm sorry that happened on that account.
She's working with us, I know.
I mean, it is a good, the annual contract, it is a good thing for partners if you're planning and communicating, and it helps you streamline many of your business process, your financial stuff, all these things. That's actually a first one that I've heard that someone did it out of bounds, I'd say, to lock in a client. That's a really interesting scenario. I'd love to hear if other people have experienced this yet.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yeah.
You don't lock in the customer. The customer is not locked in the partner. Okay, so when you get right down to it, that wasn't true, Judy. It's the partner that's locked in for the year, not the customer.
Well, let's
make your agreements with Stratus or SureWeb or SoftTrace or whoever they are, and you're the one that they send you the invoice. It doesn't go to the customer.
Pipeline review.
Yeah, but let's be careful there because there is language, and I can guarantee most of our contracts that would prevent that. And yes, they would be on the hook. Now, Judy, my question is: was this done in the beginning of NC in that first couple months or first couple weeks? Right, it wasn't done recently, right? Okay.
So it was done at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So, if for those who do not know, Microsoft did put a mechanism in place to help kind of try to minimize this situation, right? When an order goes through with NCE, there is now a case where the client is getting an email, right? It's kind of a double verification between what you put in and what the client sees, right? Which now is going to prevent that. That change came about a month ago. Sorry this happened to you. Losing a deal never is great, right? Microsoft did see this potential, and they did kind of put that mechanism in place. Is it going to stop this 100%? No, but it should help.
Okay, so let's extrapolate a little bit on that. And we're bouncing around here, but this is really important because when we were talking last night, Michael brought up a good point. What we saw questions about is, well, what happens when you want to do a transfer from CSP to CSP? In the past, we could do it month to month, not a problem. But in a case like this, or even a case like somebody's with a partner for 3 months and is like, I want to go, there isn't really a mechanism to do that, right? You'd have to buy the whole contract out, but then what business school is saying this is a good idea?
Right.
But I don't know.
It's definitely
from that, Jim, what do you think about that? Have you thought about that, or Jim? I'll bring you back on.
Microsoft.
Yep.
1 million.
I think it's great for the partner. Couple of comments. I have 100+ partners on Business Central in the cloud, so we're Canada's biggest dynamic partner.
Let me just go put my cards and
about
say,
80% of them are going
there's 5 things you can't
10% are going hybrid, which is some monthly and some annual, and 10% are staying pure monthly. Okay, so we've started a couple of the words that you said earlier. The upsell opportunities are there. When we phoned in, we found a lot of people changing the seat counts. Okay, so there was a lot of upsell opportunity. That was number one. Number two that you guys were talking about, the 5% licensing, you want to jump on that, you got another 5 days. So we're pushing like crazy to get it in before March 30th. So we're doing, both things on it.
Excellent. Thanks for that feedback. That's really great feedback. I think we all learn from that type of thing. And something, and there are going to be also some partners that might be pushing the edge on some of these things, and that's just the way it's just really unfortunate that it has there. We've got a couple more questions in the side. If I could ask our group of presenters maybe look at that and see if you can answer a couple of those, that would be great. I also want to bring you guys back on here. So, look, let's talk about something else here. The part of liability, okay? Liability. And a lot of us are scared to say a lot of these things about this. But I'm not going to. I'm going to say out there, I find it very difficult to understand
cards.
the business, like what business school would say, hey, this is the margin you're going to receive on this type of deal. So let's say you have to assume, $5,000 in licensing, and you're going to get a 15% margin of $5,000 in licensing, right? So we're looking at, $600-700 on that, right? But yet, for what we're going to give you, we're going to tell you that you're liable now for $5,000 a year in licensing. And, I think that's one thing that a lot of us have brought up, but wait a minute, the liability versus reward, in a lot of respects, doesn't seem to be there, but we're told that it's going to provide us all this new flexibility and it's going to help us bring in net new business, and don't be a licensing expert. But I do think, and in my opinion, of course, we all have opinions, that we're skirting the main issue of liability based on one specific thing. It's the licensing. You're asking us to take on, a monster liability for this much of revenue. All right, this super small percentage. Maybe it's 15, but it's really not 15% margin, because you get that 15% margin from a distant. Maybe you're getting something on the back end, but we do have to incur costs for billing and a lot of other things, administration. So really, what is our revenue? Maybe 10%, if we're really bringing it down to our 7 or 8%. But yet you're asking us to be liable for 100% of the contract over a year or 3-year period. I don't know what business school says that's a great idea. I don't know if you take that particular model, take it to any business school in the land, they're going to say, yeah, that is a great plan. That is a great idea. Build your business based on that. Yeah, let's have monster liability. So I'm going to bring this up, okay, because I know it's a little bit of firebrand. I told you guys we're having some good stuff, but we have some tough stuff that we want to talk about, okay? So I'm going to bring it to the group. Michael, I'm going to ask you first here. How are you justifying? What are you doing? How are you feeling about it? Is it, okay, I understand it, and I take it with the licensing, but I'm making so much more money as I'm doing all these extra things for them, and I'm okay with that? How do you feel about it, Michael? What are your thoughts?
So bundle. If I had to sell $5 or $4, a seat Microsoft licensing, I'd be behind you in the parking lot. Sure. I mean, bottom line is that, we have other services that go out there that are always on top of it. It's the rare customer that just buys licensing from us. That's me. Number two, I do want to be, most of our clients are under that 100, 150 seat range and even smaller. They rely on us in anything. A big Texas 4-letter word hardware producer. You go to their website now, and everything under the sun could be purchased with a PC these days, and everything you can think of. So in reality, I don't want them to go to anywhere else. Or in the case of the larger company, I don't want one of the big other 3 or 4-letter companies to go take that licensing deal and go out there and sell other things. So I always kind of say to my sales team that all roads in Microsoft lead to Azure, because that's like printing money. So if I have to sell them, 50, E1 licenses or P1 licenses that lead me up to other services that are out there, so be it. Because in reality, if I'm not doing it, someone else is. But I just don't sell Microsoft licenses alone. There's services on top of it. There's email security. There's You know, anyone that looks up at the business premium bundle, oh my God, if you look at all the services that you can tack onto everything that's included in that, you know, so that's my philosophy. Other people think that it's easier to just send it out to Microsoft. But remember, if you tell them to go out to Microsoft, they're going to look elsewhere also. It's not just Microsoft itself. And if they end up with one of those other providers, you know, then I'm going to just lose them as a customer.
Now, that is a great counter argument to what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm looking at it from one myopically looked area, but the counter argument is if you push it back to Microsoft, maybe they don't need you. Maybe they're going to find somebody else, and then you're going to lose the business altogether. So maybe part of the risk that you're assuming is the total cost of sale, which is attributed to every partner or to every customer.
Remember, you know as well as once they dial the 1-800 and end up in one of the call centers, you know, if you're not a big partner that's up there and on the list, you know, I got a lead for one of my own customers just because he had a generalized question. Can you imagine if, you know, I wasn't one of the 3 partners that just because they had a question? So in reality, you know, I want to be on the top of their mind. You know, I want to go out there and talk to them about technology. I wanted to talk to them about NC. And, you know, we've had other clients call us in some northern bigger cities where I'll say there was a company I never heard of reviewing their licensing, giving them below cost licensing, but the fine print said it was only 2 months. Because so he was given some of the 5% back, but in the end, he was hitting them up after 6 months. So in reality, you got to feel like you trust me to go out there. So those are the customers that I want that are in place. So again, I think it's all about relationship. Everyone's going to have their own reason. And if it's not worth the 7% to sell other things that are out there, you know, everyone has a different business model.
Well, thank you, Michael. I think that's very interesting. I'm going to go to Tyler on this. Tyler, what are your thoughts on the risk versus reward? You know, and then Judy, I'd like to bring Judy back in, and then we'll go to Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean, this risk versus reward conversation's been going on for a while. Look, if you're in the Microsoft space and you're only selling licensing, it's not going to work anymore. Okay, we know this, right? The service dollars are what, 7 to 1, 10 to 1 on most projects, right? The funny part is that the pro serve side of it, right? Those $250,000 projects, $50,000, $100,000 projects have more risk than they do for the licensing. You're more likely for them to pay the licensing and them to dispute the professional services, right? Which is a whole different conversation. But the risk is there, right? If you're not packaging, like Michael said, you're not bundling, you're really at a disadvantage, and that's where the risk comes in. You know, if you look at, for example, NetSuite or Salesforce, right? The annualized contract's not a new thing, right? Annualized contract's big to those companies. The only difference is the payment terms are the same whether you go to the publisher or you go to the partner. This is where the payment terms are become an unfair advantage. Someone, let's say, who's a smaller partner, they're not comfortable with risk. So they're only offering monthly premium, or they're only offering, you know, annual upfront, right? Let's say that client doesn't want to pay that. They can run to a bigger partner, right? Like one of the major LARs or someone like that, or they can run back to Microsoft. Well, they're not getting the value. You know, licensing is a commodity, right? Services and relationships aren't. And that's where this kind of transfer process we briefly touched on and we didn't get involved really with a couple minutes ago is this transfer process. If you have that customer relationship, you shouldn't be worried about the transfer process, right? You want to own that that customer. Now, Microsoft eventually will release it. It's on their roadmap. They don't have the mechanism and how to counteract the ownership of that, let's call it licensing agreement, right? But that risk is there, kind of bringing it full circle, but it's not the biggest deal to a lot of partners, right? We're making mountains out of molehills. We did it inside of Velasio, right? I had the team of every executive on the phone, and we had this conversation. When we looked at the risk on ProServe versus licensing, that risk really is a lot lower, right? So what I would suggest is credit checks, right? If you got long-time clients, offer that annual paid monthly. You have that relationship with them. If you're scared to do that, take a deposit. Take 6 months. Create your own kind of financing where you're taking that money up front and cascading it across the allocation periods, right? It really comes to being able to do what feels correct to your business. And most importantly, don't be scared to say no. Look, no, we can't do that, right? A lot of people are scared to say no, especially around risk, or, sales reps are really scared to say no because they want the deal. If it doesn't make sense for your business, say no. And, hey, look, we can't do this. I'm sorry. We'll still give you services, but we cannot give you that term on that license.
And I do believe that there are some situations where the disties are providing financing options if you don't want to carry the paper, right?
Yep. Listen, there's millions of finance companies that'll help you, right? There's millions. I mean, there's a few distributors that are offering it, right? Financing does bring up that cost a little bit, right? But it's still less than that 20%.
Well, listen, Tyler, you bring up a good point of, take the deposit. Try to rent an apartment without putting at least 3 to 6 months down.
Yep.
As a deposit. We're just cloud lords as opposed to landlords.
100%. That's the big
cloud lords.
I had this debate with someone else. They buy their insurance, right? The first couple of months are more expensive than the last couple of months because they're taking that money up front and just allocating it in case someone leaves, right? That's exactly what this is. We're selling insurance on ourselves. So if that means we're going to take that deposit, right? Let's take it. Let's be smart about how we go after it. But what it really comes down to is make sure your contracts are written correctly, right? Because there's not a court in this land that's going to tell you, look, you signed the contract, you didn't pay out the terms, you owe that money. Now, yes, that becomes a legal battle and you might spend more money, but those contracts are there to protect you. And that's what a lot of people haven't focused on.
And the contracts are important because many times we have a long-term relationship at this time. And how many of us have had, IT teams change over the past year? So that guy remembered you talked to him about NCE, sent you the email, but didn't see the, what do you say to the next IT director? Oh, gee, we shook hands virtually.
Judy, how have you approached it? What from your perspective?
We did a lot of the things that Tyler talked about. We looked across our customer base and we decided what is our policy going to be as we go forward. And so we looked at the size of the customers. For a lot of our little customers, we just talked to them about they needed to switch to annual because they were so small it wouldn't have a big impact, and that if they needed a few extra days to be able to pay the invoice, to let us know and we'd work with them on it. For our bigger customers that we knew it would have a huge impact, we decided at what size they could automatically be, especially if they've been long-term customers, we would allow them to go to the annual paid monthly. And we talked to them about it and said, this is what we're going to do, but we need you to understand that you have this annual commitment and you will be held to that, and put it in writing to them so that they knew it, again, to make sure we had the legal coverage for it. And we've updated all of our contracts so that it now clearly states that when you buy a license, you have an annual commitment no matter how it's paid. And just kind of took all those appropriate steps and put it in place. All of our customers have been great about it. Anybody who had a little heartburn worked with us, and we figured out how to make it work for them.
I love that. That is fantastic. And on top of this, okay, so I love all this learning that we're here. One question I do have, and I think this is National Next One, is NCE making you consider changing your licensing model to push licensing back to Microsoft? I think we just learned that the good partners here are like figuring out a way, but I'm wondering, Jeff, are you hearing many folks doing that? And then on the attendees, I would love to hear from you guys. Just say yes, no, not really. I'd like to see what you guys think. But Jeff, what are your thoughts? You just work with a lot of partners.
Based on how they can purchase these licenses and secure them, right? There's some choices that need to be made. If you're dealing with a client that requires monthly payments, they don't have that kind of money to pay up front for some of these annual SKUs, it's causing them to think about their business. I mean, it's almost bringing those not so well-funded companies really thinking about their considerations, and that it's really interesting on how that all works. So we've had a couple deals blow up. You know, they're like, the client can't afford X amount of dollars today. We can't lock in. We do want to take advantage of these discounts that are available, but we can't do it. You know, instead of paying all that up front, the client's actually considering going straight back to Microsoft, which, you know, should be frightening for anyone who is selling this stuff, everyone on this call, because it's interesting. Like, Microsoft is making it easy to do this.
So I think we've learned a lot here. You know, last question I want to get into is that we're coming towards the top of the hour, which is crazy. This thing just flew by today. Like, we just went off the reservation with this. And it really comes down to contractual agreements. You know, Tyler, if you don't mind, I bring you in on this one. You know, how are you advising or talking about contractual agreements? Because this is now really front and center. Have they changed? Is there any advice that you could give, you know, to the group here, the community, about maybe how they would approach contractually, you know, with their customers and licensing?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at this from a direct and an indirect side, right? If you're a direct partner, make sure you understand the contract between Microsoft and yourself, and then the contract from yourself to your client. Indirect partners, right? You need to look at the contract from your indirect distributor to you, and then you to your customers as well, right? You need to look one up and one down. So what we've been saying, and what we put in place in our e-commerce system, is really messaging that says, hey, you're buying an annual SKU, or you're buying a monthly SKU, you're buying a 3-year SKU, right? This means that if you're buying that annual SKU, you are responsible for that annual contract. There's no out clause, there's no proration for canceling. You now have 7 days to cancel it. If not, you're going to pay it. What we did is we even slimmed that down further. We said you have 5 days, right? And the reason was not because we wouldn't let them out in 7 days. The reason was to make sure our support teams had enough time to do it, right? So look, your contract doesn't have to match Microsoft. Even when we had a 72-hour window, we had a 36-hour window in our contract, right? But it's really not because you want to have it. It's because if you don't have contracts and you don't have that legal language, you're on the hook, right? Without the customer being on the hook. And what business sense, right, does that even mean? Right? You need to pass down that liability down the ladder. So what I advise client or partners to do, what I advise Velocity to do, is very simple. Hey, you buy this from us. Here's the term. Here's the way that the out clause might work. But if there is no out clause, then we don't have an out clause. Upsizes are prorated off of this, right? And then if you decide to leave us, you have to make that decision 30 days before the end of the contract and pay out the remainder of that contract. That way, no matter what happens, you're covered on the upsize, the downsize, you're covered on the cancellation as long as it's in the 5 days. Right now, we're not worried about transfers, right? Because transfers aren't in the marketplace yet. Obviously, transfers will be handled a little bit different when that is kind of in place by Microsoft. But make sure your contracts are really clear, really concise, and people make sure that they have, you know, and it shows a level of respect if a client is buying from you with that contract.
Tony, you could not have said it better. Thank you so much for that advice. And you know, first and foremost, I want to say thank you everybody here for you know, all the speakers that have come today, given their special time. This has really been fantastic. And I know, you know, we typically have 15 questions and we go down and this, but it just this was a lot more organic today. I liked it. I really did. We have a couple things that we want to do, and then we'll bring Scott back on, and then Dylan, we want to put those last 2 slides up. But before I go into it, next month's we do this once a month, every last Friday of the month. So just look on LinkedIn or look for our invites. We send a lot of invites out. And I'm sorry for bothering you. I apologize. But next month is the evolution of the partner channel. That's what our topic is. It's going to be next month, the evolution of the Microsoft Partner Network, right? We're going to be talking about all the things that are changing, the doing away with silver and gold competencies, the scoring model. Holy Moses, things are changing, and we're going to actually talk a lot more about that. Sincerely, a lot more about that. So if Dylan, if you could take the registration code off the PowerPoint slide and put it in the chat window, I'd really appreciate it. And then we're going to go and post it on LinkedIn. So if you look for our LinkedIn connection event, you can get it there. We'll have all the information. But it's evolving the Microsoft Partner Network. We're hoping to get some really big speakers from Microsoft to talk about this with us. But thank you so much. Scott, can we just talk a little bit about our initiative together? It's a real opportunity for us to utilize their relationship with Microsoft and do some events together for a very nominal amount of money. Scott, are you on?
Yeah, and like I said, our partnership I think works well from what the Crancer Group is doing and working with partners and trying to help them grow, their business basically, and what Stratos Cloud Alliance is doing from an indirect CSP provider perspective. We're partnering with the Crancer Group to go through and offer our partners to be able to participate in the CIE, or the customer immersion experience. So that's a program basically that only certain partners can go through and participate in. And Sherman and his group have been working with partners to be able to go through and run those customer immersion experience programs. Well, we're partnering with Sherman and the Crancer Group to be able to run those customer immersion experience programs for Power Platform through us. So Stratos Cloud Alliance is basically authorized for partners to be able to submit for their immersion funding for partners on their behalf. And then we're going to have Sherman and his team from the Crancer Group basically work with those partners to run those customer immersion experience programs. And that's designed to go through and help generate as we said leads for partners that then at that point turn into opportunities. And then from that perspective, as I mentioned before, right, a lot of partners may not even have the resources or expertise, and that's where we come in. We can help out with solution architects and professional services, as well as obviously the licensing to help you close new business. And we're doing this through a joint venture with the Crancer Group and their expertise, Stratos Cloud Alliance, and our resources and what we bring to the table, and Microsoft programs that are available. And that's really all at no cost to our Stratos Cloud Alliance partners. So we're really excited about that. That's the type of partnerships that we want with our partners, is to help them get into programs that can help them grow, right? So this partnership is one of many that we have, and we're certainly looking forward to going through and rolling that out over the next several months with Sherman and his group. And this is really just the formal announcement of it today.
And Scott, just to reiterate, what we do, it's a factory. Every immersion experience we put on for partners, we get about 32 registrations, we get about 15 attendees, and we drive on average about 3 net new opportunities, Power Platform type of opportunities every session. Now, we currently do over 80 sessions a month right now for partners across the United States. We've grown from 1 partner 2 years ago to 22 partners today, and we're looking to expand. We've grown from 1 person to, we just hired a 12 full-time employee. It's a factory here, and we want to be able to do it for anybody who's part of Stratos. Just give me a call, send me an email, send Scott an email if you're interested. Happy to talk to you. And us, we're the least pressure people in the world. You want to work, you want to do something, you want to pour gasoline on the fire, call us. If you don't, that's fine. Just be part of our group here. Just keep coming back, keep providing good stuff. We're here to learn from each other. We're here to and not commercialize this because, hey, but we're here to learn from each other, So last thing I'm going to say, we're going to land this plane right on time. Thanks everybody for coming today. Thank you very much. Look out for our invitations for next month. We're going to start hitting it pretty hard with getting people to this one. Thank you so much again. I'll give you one last thing. If you guys ever need any advice when it comes to Microsoft partner programs, incentives, or just advice on looking to grow, looking to set up your marketing or sales, once again, reach out to me. I never turn down a discovery type of call. We never sell any of our calls. We are just here to help first and foremost. That's what it is. We build relationships by giving, not by taking, by giving. Last thing I put you on here, dreamers are the ones that talk about what they're going to do, and leaders are the ones that do what they talk about. So ask yourself the question every single day, are you a leader or are you a dreamer? With that being said, thank you so much for the Crancer Group. Have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.